Namaskar, dear devotees and friends. Today, Wednesday evening, we'll be reading the Gospel of Bhagavan Sri Ramakrishna, the Panchama Veda, and let us begin, as usual, from the Gopi Gita. Tava kathamritam tapta jivanam kabibhidiritam kalmashapaham sravana mangalam srimadatam bhubi grinanti e bhurida janaha. Friends, those who are following this class, you know that we have discussed in our previous class, that is on the 20th, while reading a statement of Bhagavan Sri Ramakrishna, pure souls are the veritable manifestation of God. And our today's topic, we see God Himself if we but see His incarnation. I give this, you cannot say that it's a topic and then discussing only on this. We are reading the Gospel and giving special attention to this type of statements that the Bhagavan has given, Sri Ramakrishna Dev has given. Now here, the last week we have discussed about those who are pure souls. And you know that the absolute devotion and love to live in a quiet place and shunning the company of the worldly people, these, according to the Bhagavad Gita, are the symbol of a pure soul. So this type of people, they always love to listen, love to talk, love to read about God. And they cannot, in that way, they cannot live in the company of the worldly people. Those who will be talking about the different type of worldly things, worldly matters, they feel pain in that. That is one of the symbols. In the Bhagavad Gita, that is the 13th chapter, 10th verse, Maicha ananya yogena bhakti abhyavicharini. That we have explained in the previous class. It is in the YouTube. Those who have not attended, you can go back and see that and listen to that. So this is the one Bhagavad Gita. And second, again the Guru Vasishta, he is mentioning it. Lobha moha rusham yasya tanutanum dinam bhavet yatha shastra viharati swakarmasu sa sajjana. Who is a pure soul? Then we find the Vasishta Muni, he is mentioning that he is a sajjana, he is a pure soul whose greed, delusion and anger is reducing. So every day, slowly, it is going away. In one moment it cannot. Those are very pure soul like Swami Brahmananda, Swami Vivekananda, they were like that. Bhagavan Sri Ramakrishna is mentioning about them. Now we know that he is mentioning about them, he is asking the devotee to feed them so that they will get lot of blessings. Because these pure souls, they don't have any attachment with the worldly things, and anything, any mind, any thought which is not thinking about the worldly things, the things attached with the ego, selfishness, then it is a pure mind. So again and again we have to understand this. Purity doesn't mean something external. Purity means detachment with the worldly objects and attachment to the divine things, that much. Attaching to the God and detaching or giving away the worldly things, which is associated with ego, that much, that is purity. And yatha shastra viharati, we explained that. Now in Shankaracharya also we discuss ke santi santo, who is a pure soul, the Shankaracharya, Acharya he is asking, then he himself is giving the answer, Akhila Bita Raga Apasta Moha Shiva Tatta Nishtha. Akhila Bita Raga, one who is completely free from desire. That there are different type of desires are there. So Akhila Bita Raga, Apasta Moha. In the same way, he is completely free from delusion. So what is the delusion? Delusion means attraction to the worldly objects by mistake. So what we think this is wonderful, this is going to give me joy, and I am going to gain by achieving that, this is all delusion. Because worldly things means temporary. For a few days, then again you have to go back to the misery state. That is called delusion. Again and again we are making the mistake. That's called delusion. So this is what he said. Kosanti Santa, who is a pure soul? Akhila Bita Raga. Akhila, completely. Bita, gan, raga, attachment. And Apasta Moha, he is completely free from delusion. This he has given up. But he has taken his mind to what? Shiva Tatta Nishtha. See, giving the worldly things and accepting the spirituality. Shiva, Shiva means purity. Shiva means auspiciousness. So Shiva Tatta Nishtha. What is that Tatta? The truth. What is that truth? God alone exists. So when some people, they are having these qualities, they are called pure souls. The Bhagavan Sri Ramakrishna was praising them. But today he is mentioning that we see God himself if we but see his incarnation. Then it was that we were reading the chapter 38, is the page 725 of the English book. The Master Mahashaya writing, after school hours, Aim returned to Balaram's house and found the master sitting in the drawing room surrounded by his devotees and disciples. Among them were Girish, Suresh, Balaram, Latu and Chunilal. The master to Girish, you had better argue this point with Narendra and see what he has to say. And there were some discussions were going on. Master told Girish. Then the Girish, Narendra says that God is infinite. We cannot even much as to say that the things or persons we perceive are parts of God. How can infinity have parts? It cannot. The Narendra, that time a very young boy of 17, 18 maybe, so he was, but see, look at that. At that time he has read and he has developed and he is now arguing in that way. So this is the thing we have to understand. The Master, however great and infinite God may be, his essence can and does manifest itself through man by his mere will. So Narendra says that God is infinite. We cannot even so much as say that the things or person we perceive are parts of God. How can infinity have parts? This is the argument of Narendra. Now Bhagavan Sri Ramakrishna is mentioning, however great and infinite God may be, his essence can and does manifest itself through man by his mere will. The Sri Ramakrishna is completely clear. There is no confusion about. That is why the gospel of Sri Ramakrishna is so important, because all the time whenever we are reading it, we are getting a clear idea about the God, about the path that we have to follow. He said, no, Narendra at that time when he was young, he heard, he read, and according to his idea, whatever he realized at that time, he said God cannot have any part. And he was influenced mostly by then a group of people, that is Brahma Samajis. But Sri Ramakrishna is rectifying with no, it is possible. God may be infinite, God may be the great, but at the same time, God is coming down and manifesting through the human being. And this is the basis of Hinduism. God's incarnation as man cannot be explained by analogy. One must feel it for oneself and realize it by direct perception. So unless and until one is feeling about it, realizing it, it is not possible. So what is God? That is important. God has all power. God is everywhere. God is the knower of everything. This is the way we try to understand God. But at the same time, very directly, we can feel the one who is full of love. And afterwards, this Narendra, who became Vivekananda through his own realization, understanding, then he said about Bhagavan Sri Ramakrishna, who was the God himself incarnated as human being, about him he said, L-O-V-E personified. So what is Sri Ramakrishna? Love personified. Then what is God? It is love. So this we will understand afterwards. Slowly the things are going, and today the discussion is slowly taking us to the incarnation, God's incarnation. One must feel it for oneself and realize it by direct perception. An analogy can give us only a little glimpse. By touching the horns, legs, or tail of a cow, we in fact touch the cow herself. But for us, the essential thing about a cow is her milk, which comes through the udder. The divine incarnation is like the udder. God incarnates himself as man from time to time in order to teach people devotion and divine love. Now, Sri Ramakrishna is very clear why the God is incarnating: to teach us the divine love. What is God? Love. And why the God is taking the form, accepting the form? To teach us that divine love. Now here the divine love, the Girish, Narendra says, is it ever possible to know all of God? He is infinite. So we can understand the argument that the young Narendra was giving. So it has a great influence of the Brahma Samajis. The Brahma Samajis, they developed that theory because they were trying to counter the Christianity, which was constantly attacking the Hinduism because of the idol worships. They were worshipping the different images, different statues. So the Christians used to say, criticizing the how God, which is infinite, can be into that small little image or a doll. Mainly they used to say the doll. How it is possible? God is total. How can it be part? That is the argument that those Christians used to give that time. And Narendra was the counter, the Brahma Samajis. They were not with the traditional Hindus, they were not with the Christians. In between, they developed that path and they wanted to say the God is all pervading, God has no form, etc. We know that about the Brahma Samaj idea. Narendra was influenced by that, so he was going on arguing. The Girish, Narendra says, is it ever possible to know all of God? He is infinite. Master to Girish. Who can comprehend everything about God? All of God, Narendra said, the Sri Ramakrishna is using the word comprehend. All of God. It is impossible. because He is the Creator. Whatever He wants us to understand, we only understand that much. In other places, Bhagavan Sri Ramakrishna mentioned, even the Shukadeva, he could take a little water out of that infinite ocean of divinity, of God. A little water he could take, as if. Little knowledge of that, and that was sufficient. It is impossible in reality, but at least we can understand that much. It is not given to man to know any aspect of God, great or small, and what need is there to know everything about God? It is enough if we only realize Him. And we see God. This line is very important. I quote it from here. We see God Himself if we but see His incarnation. Suppose a person goes to the Ganges and touches its water. He will then say, yes, I have seen and touched the Ganges. To say this, it is not necessary for him to touch the whole length of the river from Hardwar or to Ganga Sagar. Everybody laughed. Sri Ramakrishna too. Hardwar, from where the Ganga is emanating and ending to the Ganga Sagar. Friends, in this connection, I just like to remind you that we have uploaded one video. That is, there we are trying to see the Hinduism, how it developed in different the holy places, pilgrim places, right from Gangotri and down to the Ganga Sagar, and visiting this is really very good. And in different places, our Swamis, they are also giving some examples how it was connected with the life of Swami Vivekananda. That this was shown in the Parliament of Religion. It's a very interesting. I think you people will like it. It is there in the YouTube itself. The Sri Ramakrishna is mentioning from Hardwar to Ganga Sagar. Haridwar we say. So Haridwar from to Ganga Sagar. We need not to go and touch the whole Ganga. Anywhere you just go down and touch the Ganga, you can say. Similarly, if we have seen the Incarnation, we have seen God. This is the point. So here we have to understand what is this Incarnation. In the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 4, Jnana Yoga, in the verse 6 we find, does God manifest as human on this world? Answer is yes. How? Then it says that the 4th chapter, 6th verse of the Bhagavad Gita, though I am unborn and eternal by nature, God Himself, Lord Sri Krishna, He is mentioning, though I am unborn and eternal by nature, ajopi sannabhaya atma, san abhaya atma. Aja api, unborn. Api is giving the stress. I am unborn. Again, even then, san, abhaya atma, I am eternal by nature. Abhaya, so eternal by nature. And though I am the Lord of all beings, bhutanam ishara api san, yet subjugating my prakriti, I accept birth through my own maya. This line is important. Our birth, we are bound to take birth. Why? Because of our desire, because of our karma and its result. We have to come down to experience the result of our karma, good or bad, whatever. We are bound. But the God is not. Even then, He is coming down as if, manifesting as if, with the power of His Maya. The Maya is God's power, And how it works? The Vedantin student, you know, there are three qualities, guna, sattva, raja, tama, and two power. The one is covering, and second is imposing something else on that. So we don't see the truth because it is covered by the Maya in such a way it is impossible to see. Rather, we are bewildered by seeing something else on that, and whatever we like to see, we see on that. So these are the power of Maya, the God's power. So ajopi sannabe abhaya atma bhutanam isharapi san prakritim swamadhisthaya sambhavami atma mayaya. Atma mayaya, just through the power of Maya, as if I am manifested. But it is not in reality, as if manifested. Sometimes the science fiction stories, they will be, when we read, maybe as the science is progressing and as because of the COVID we are all maintaining the distances, is going on, continuing, maybe that will be feasible, that will be practical one day, that throwing the image far away places. Then a person going over there and standing, talking as if he is just standing there. But it is his three-dimensional image. It may be someday. Sometimes it is they are doing, maybe it is very costly. So this is the way as if the God is manifesting, and we can see Him, we can talk to Him, we can touch Him, we can live with Him, and we call Him the Incarnation of God. Why? Because the unique characteristics is not like us, a completely different. That's why He is so important. When the Sri Krishna came, some of the pure soul like the Bhishma, they realized Him, understood Him. They understood that is the God in that form. So they were respecting Him so much. Other people couldn't. They were with Him. Rather, they were planning to kill Him and to insult Him and so many things. In the Mahabharata, those who have read, you know that. The God was living with them. They could not understand. Why? Because their mind was not pure. But some of the people they understood. Like the Kunti understood, Bhishma understood, Vidura understood. These are different characters, very pure. What is the purity again? There is no attachment to the worldly objects. So the mind was completely towards God, and in that mind the revelation of the true nature of God was there. They could understand Him. Thus similarly with Bhagavan Sri Ramakrishna too. Many people lived with Him so closely for such a long time. They used to play with Him, they were our friends, but even then the relatives, they couldn't understand. But Ma Sharadamani Devi, Swami Vivekananda, many other direct disciples, Balaram Bosch, in whose house we are now meeting Bhagavan Sri Ramakrishna, the many of the householders, devotees, they understood. Why? Again, the mind was purified. And whose mind was purified? A personality like Girish Chandra Ghosh. Any moment, any person can be purified. Why? The moment you withdraw the mind from the worldly objects which is associated with the ego, when you are completely free from the ego, immediately that purity comes. And when that purity comes, we can understand. And when we see that incarnation, we see God Himself. That is why Bhagavan Sri Ramakrishna is very clearly mentioning, we see God Himself if we but see His incarnation. Sri Ramakrishna himself is mentioning. And all these people sitting around, how many they understood it? This is Maya. The God is sitting with us, but we can't understand why. Then in our mind there will be some idea, oh, this is, how can He be God? because he is having only two hands. He is not having different heads as we see in the Brahma, 4 heads, or the Shiva, like Krishna, that different way they always think. Krishna had to prove by showing so many miracles, supernatural power, by lifting in one finger the whole hill. Even then people were doubting him. Jesus had to walk on the water only to bring some faith on him. People don't understand what is God. They only understand and accept miraculous power. But nowadays modern science is doing so much of miracle. How? Just by harassing the nature, utilizing the nature, analyzing the nature. It is possible. I am sitting over here in Chicago and just looking at the camera and talking to you, and you all over the world listening to me. Is it not miracle? A few years before, people would have given the name, oh, this is miracle. That he is sitting in one place and talking with so many people. You can see him, you can listen to him. But the science is doing it. What greatness is there? So that greatness is not in these. When we understand that incarnation, it is his quality. When we see the incarnation, we see the God. And what is that incarnation? That particular form? You know that it says, why the God is accepting this form? In the 7th verse of the same chapter, chapter 4, it says, Yada yada hi dharmasya glani bhavati bharata abbuthyanam adharmasya tada atmanam srijamaham. The why? Because of this, when I have to, whenever there is decline of dharma, righteousness. What is righteousness? Believing that there is a soul, there is God, and believing that one is controlling his nature. But nature is constantly provoking to react. Fight with that man, go and kill him, cheat him, enjoy. Then all the time nature will be provoking. And we can control that, the tremendous force of the nature which is dragging us down, by thinking about God, by thinking about the morality. How much it can be controlled by the law of the land. The people, the government is making the laws. Out of fear, some people are controlled, but whenever there is an opportunity, they are breaking it. So the best development, when you understand this, people understand this, that when I am going and hurting someone physically or through word or any other way, actually I am hurting myself, because it is coming back to me and with more force. So then I will restrain myself. No, I won't do it. So that is called dharma. Dharma means understanding the reality. I am not this body, but I am the soul. And soul is traveling because of my karma. And I am performing karma, the action, the work, through 3 different ways: physically, mentally, and through words. So we must be very, very careful. When you are talking with someone, we must be always positive. When we are thinking, we must be praying. When we are acting, we must be completely restrained, and by that way. So these are the ways one can become purified. But unless and until that is there, the faith is there, the belief is there, there is no difference between human and other beings, maybe like we can say the animals. So by that way, we are weaning ourselves. So this is called religion. Religion is a process that makes a brute unto man, man unto God. The process means understanding. And then, to following that, there may be argument, birth due to karma, good or bad. Does God also has karma? The counter we have already discussed, God is all powerful, Sarva Shaktiman. In Sanskrit it says, Sarva means all, Shakti means power, Man the one who is having. Shakti Man, one who is having the power. Sarva, all power. So any type of work he can do. And in the Laghu Bhagavatam is mentioning like this, Tadrishancha bina shaktim na siddhet paramam isharata. If you are not having that power, then how can you call yourself as God? Then the person who is not having any property, any land, any money, how can he claim that I am a rich man? I am a landlord? You don't have land. How can you say you are the landlord? Even not having any wealth, how can you say that you are rich? So it's the same way, if the God is not having this power. What is that power? Anything. He can be in form, he can be without form, he can be here this moment, he can be anywhere that very moment, he can be in any form, in any way manifesting, he can do anything. So then only Parama Ishwarata. So the Laghu Bhagavatam is telling, so this is the way. Sometimes some people, they consider God as the creator and ruler of this universe. When they consider the ruler of this universe, creator of this universe, they consider that God is living like a ruler separately in a palace. He doesn't come down to the ordinary people, mixing with the ordinary people. Somewhere outside this creation, somewhere in the heaven, we don't know where is heaven. So they always imagine that God is sitting in the heaven and He is ruling the whole world, this universe. He giving the punishment or reward according to the work. They do not consider, they cannot think that God can come down and live like us. They say, no, cannot be the incarnation. They always think that God is, that's why in Christianity also we find, they say that God has sent His Son, not Himself, His Son, to teach the spirituality, religion, and then He is communicating with the Son through the Holy Spirit, to the Trinity, that is the conception. But the Vedanta says, no, God is everything. God is one without second. So except that, we are now using the word God. Usually the Vedantin will say, the Advaita Vedantin, it is Brahman. Brahman means all pervading consciousness and eternally going on increasing, infinite. We cannot limit, oh, this is this much. No, it cannot be. There is no limit, unlimited. So that is why that is called Brahman. The Sanskrit word they use, Brahman. So this Brahman is only one and without any second, it has no two. That many of you, you know that they will be giving nicely, they will be explaining Sagata Veda, Sarupa Veda, like that. They will say, no. Sagata Veda Rahita. No, it is not like this, it is not like this. So I am not talking that today here. So by that way, they are proving God is only one, there cannot be two. If that is so, then how can be the separate things? Where from we came? Where from these animals came, these birds came, these trees came, the plants came. Anything that you see is nothing but the same God. Friends, this unique conception that God is in everything, you will find in the image of Goddess Durga. Always Hindus, they are worshipping in the images. but they're all symbolic. The goddess Durga, particularly eastern side if you go, is having 10 hands. The 10 hands means Dasha Dika, the every direction, everywhere, that is the main thing, everywhere God is there. And God is in the reptile, you will find that snake. God is in the animals, you will find the lion and the rat. God is in that whole gamut of the animal. God is in the birds. There's a peacock and an owl. The whole gamut of the birds. And God is in the trees and the plants. That there'll be a plantain tree, and that there they will put different varieties of plants together. God is there too. And God is in good, God is in bad. So that is the way the whole Durga image. And God is all powerful. In the Hindu, gods and goddesses are all having the weapons in their hands. But they are very docile. The Hindu religion itself very docile. It is not going to fight with anyone. But our all gods and goddesses are very powerful, the weapons. Why? Because only to say the God is powerful, all powerful. So this is the whole image, the Durga image that is the indication God is powerful. Ekam eva advitiyam is only one and it is not two. In that case, where from two will come? It is all God only. So this is the main way they say the incarnation. Now we, the ordinary people, the being, we are thinking good and bad. We are acting good and bad. We are saying good and bad. So that work, the karma phala, the result of that work, that takes us constantly, bringing us over here in different forms, different names, different times, and we go on circulating in that circle of birth and death. There are 6 varieties of changes. So it goes on. But the God is free from that. He comes just out of his own, and then he leaves and he guides us. Now there are different the opinion about the incarnation. In Mahabharata we find the 10 avatara. Avatara means incarnation. And they are beginning with the first avatar is Hamsa. Hamsa, you will find that is the Hamsa means the first Brahman. He came manifested as a swan. So they are counting from that up to 10. No Buddha. Buddha has not come over there in the Mahabharata list. Then come Bhagavata. In the Bhagavata we find 22 different varieties of God's incarnation. And then comes the Purana. In the Purana we find again 10. Bhagavata says 22, but the Purana says 10, and there they include Buddha and then exclude that Hamsa. Then that is the way, the different way they think. But when Bhagavan Sri Ramakrishna is mentioning, we see God himself, if we but see his incarnation, this is important because here a little clarification is necessary. Sometimes out of our emotion we think, oh, this particular incarnation whom I am worshipping is the only God. That is the problem. That's why in all our scripture they are giving so many incarnations. At different time, in different situation, different type of incarnation may come. In the Bhagavata itself, sometimes some people who are following the Bhagavata, they become so narrow-minded, they say only this is the God and no one is there. Again the problem. And it comes because of our ego. In the Bhagavata it says, Ashankha, There is no limit. God can come in different form. Just wishes. The moment he wishes and it comes. Who is going to restrict him? Hey, you cannot go there, you have to follow this rule. Can God be ruled by that? So that is why Ashankha, there is so many millions and millions of times in different places he comes. So Hindus, they accept whenever they see the manifestation of the divinity. Friends, those who have read the Bhagavad Gita, if you read the 16th chapter, the first 3 verses of the chapter, 16th chapter of the Gita, 26 different qualities have been mentioned, divine qualities. And then rest, again the Lord himself, Sri Krishna, is mentioning about the Ashura Sampatti. Again, that is all bad qualities, divine qualities and the devilish qualities. And these 26 good qualities, if one can acquire, he becomes God himself. She becomes God herself. So that is the main thing. When the Lord Jesus said, he who has seen the Son has seen the God, what he meant. When we look at the Jesus, there was no camera at that time, 2000 years before. But some people, they have drawn the picture. We can understand as a Jewish, the structure of the body, long hair, long beard, beautiful eyes, very unique, very attractive looking, beautiful looking Lord Jesus. Is that God? Others, those who are all around, are not. The God, if you have seen the Son, has seen the God, means God is having the beard, God is having the long hair, God is having that type of feature. Is that God, Jesus meant? I don't think so. It cannot be. When the Bhagavan Sri Ramakrishna is mentioning about those who have seen the Incarnation, have seen the God himself. What incarnation? There are so many incarnations, as I mentioned over here. According to Bhagavad, 22 incarnations are there. All these incarnations, then which one is God? It is not the frame, it is not the feature, it is not that particular body in which the God manifested. It is the quality of that particular person. Even sometimes you will find in the Avatara they are mentioning in the Purana, there are animals are also there. There are fishes there, but even then we consider them avatar. Why? The action of that particular being, if you notice, is always for the betterment of others. As a fish, he is saving the whole world. As a bow, he is saving the whole universe. And each and every time in different form he is manifesting only to save the humanity. That is the quality. If we look at that, incarnation means that love, that unselfishness, that complete dedication for the betterment of others, that is called God. Why? Because the God is not having any selfish motive. Whether you love me or not, whether you worship me or not, whether you have faith in me or not, according to your work, your result, you will go on. But God is always standing, opening his hands to embrace each and every one. So when the Lord Bhagavan Sri Ramakrishna is mentioning, we see God himself. If we but see his incarnation, it is not that particular body that he is having at that time, that moment, at that period. It is the quality that he has manifested. God as Sri Ramachandra, God as Sri Krishna, God as Sri Ramakrishna, the qualities. So that is very, very important. Now here, suppose a person goes to the Ganges, he mentioned, if you go and see the incarnation, you understand what is God, love and unselfishness. If I touch your feet, surely that is the same as touching you. So if we can understand that, if I touch your feet, surely that is the same as touching you. If a person goes to the ocean and touches but a little of its water, he has surely touched the ocean itself. Fire as an element exists in all things, but in wood it is present to a greater degree. So incarnation means the fullest degree of that manifestation. Each and every being is having love. So that it says that even in the animals we find that affection, that love. There's many stories are there. So how the animals are saving even the human child. So by that way we can understand that affection, that love, that is also present over there, but manifestation is little. That is possible in the human mind. It can manifest in the fullest. Human can become God. Girish smiling. I am looking for fire. Naturally, I want to go to a place where I can get it. It's just joking. The Girish used to smoke, so he wanted some fire to light his cigarette or something. So he is just joking with that. Sri Ramakrishna smiling. Yes, fire as an element is present more in wood than in any other object. Friends, Sri Ramakrishna's uniqueness, see, when a very ordinary word, he is telling the highest philosophy, but in a very simple way. Even the all around people who are taking it in a very simple way and just joking even on that, he is not minding. But as a great teacher, he is bringing back the same idea and again trying to give it to them so that they can understand. It goes down to their heart. So by that way he is telling, yes, the fire as an element is present more in wood than in any other object. If you seek God, then seek Him in man. If you seek God, I repeat, then seek Him in man. He manifests Himself more in man than in any other thing. There's sometimes we neglect human being and worship a piece of wood or a picture or a stone or something, some books, and we spend millions and millions of dollars to make that structure while the human being are suffering. So that we have to keep in mind. So Ramakrishna, Vivekananda, they are teaching us again and again. He who is serving the human being is serving the God. Why? God is more potent, more manifested in human being. If you see a man endowed with ecstatic love, overflowing with prema, mad after God, intoxicated with his love, then know for certain that God has incarnated himself through that man. The love, when a man is withdrawing his mind from the worldly objects like the name, fame, and physical comfort and all others, from there if he is, then of course he is actually manifesting that love. And how will you understand that? Many people, they will be living very austere life, but very selfish, very egoistic, cannot cope up with others, cannot live with others, cannot cooperate with others, cannot think good about others. No. So that's why it's always say the manifestation of God, how it will prove, not those austerities outwardly he is showing or she is showing, but the unselfishness, but the love. That is the concern. That is the main thing. To aim, to Master Mahashaya, the Sri Ramakrishna is telling, there is no doubt that God exists in all things. but the manifestation of His power are different in different beings. The great manifestation of His power is through an incarnation. Again, in some incarnations, there is a complete manifestation of God's power. It is the Shakti, the power of God, that is born as an incarnation. So sometimes even in the incarnation also we find, that is, those who are associated, they know the Puranic, the stories of the incarnations. There are different type of incarnation doing different type of work. And as I said, always they are trying to reestablish the dharma, the righteousness, but their actions may be different. The powers are also different. There is a beautiful story that just because before Sri Ramachandra, there was Parashurama, another Rama, but he was Parashurama. The Parashurama and Sri Ramachandra, they once met. The Parashurama, he was teaching the kings, those who were breaking the rules and trying to use their muscle power, manpower, to grab the power, to enjoy the worldly things. Parashuram tried to teach them the lesson, sometimes punishing them, fighting with them, to tell them that you have to keep a balance. Of course, we need the worldly things, but it should have a balance. Otherwise, the human being will become very greedy, and there is no end of this desire. After satisfying one desire, there will be another desire. After satisfying that there will be another desire. It continues, it goes on. That's why one should be very careful. And how it is possible? There should be someone constantly controlling the mind, the guru, the spiritual teacher. That should be there. So when some of the Kshatriyas, some of the kings, they were breaking that, Parashuram took up that cause and were fighting with them to reestablish. When the Ramachandra came, Sri Ramachandra, both they met. Parashuram immediately surrendered and his work was complete. He left. Sri Ramachandra was establishing the wonderful system in the family, in the society. So without saying anything, just by behaving, he was giving the law, how the human society should. Then the Sri Krishna came. So one after another, it was constantly going on helping the humanity to move towards the perfection to God. So it is incarnation, the power is manifested. But in every being it is there. If the Buddha could realize the truth, any one of us can also realize the truth. This is the great statement. Swami Vivekananda said, to Buddhahood, each and every one of us has a right. We can achieve the Buddhahood. The way Buddha got that, he was a Gautama. Then he controlled his senses. Then he withdrew the senses, concentrated on the truth. And one day he realized the truth of oneness. And he became Buddha. Bodhi means the jnana, the knowledge of oneness. Anyone can do that. No, only Buddha can have, no one else. You are all sinners. You have to, nothing like that. This is the uniqueness of Vedanta. They say each soul is potentially divine. Now, any being, anything, that divinity is there, more manifested in human being, and more manifested those who are trying to manifest it. That is called pure souls, and fully manifested in the incarnations, because they are the part and parcel of God. That is exactly what the Sri Ramakrishna is mentioning. Again, in some incarnation, there is a complete manifestation of God's power. Friends, I think we should stop over here, and then in the next class we will begin from here.
So the first question is from Devashish. He's asking, we often come across people who are often jealous or criticize people and don't allow people to live happily in life. Is it due to the reason of bad karma? We cannot avoid. How to overcome such situation?
That is to some extent it is true, Devashish Babu, is correct, that there's sometimes because of our bad karma, we come to a close in association with this type of negative people, but we should pray for them. You know why? That they got the opportunity, but they are misutilizing it, not understanding the uniqueness of this human life, and by that way they are going downwards. They may not know it, but they are going. Sometime, somewhere they will take birth and they will suffer. Forget about that. We have to go on praying to God. God, please give him the positive thinking. And by that way also, just by praying for this person who is very negative, criticizing others, you can become pure just by praying for him. Try to do that. That will be a good idea. And by that way, you will be saved from that company where you are not liking. Surely God will take you somewhere else where you will be completely free from that bad influences. Thank you.
Sanhita Banerjee is asking the next question. How can we motivate our lazy mind which sometimes appears in our mind?
Or laziness will be there. That is the nature of the mind. And whenever we try to do something good, and the more that type of thing comes, as if the nature try to suppress us. That is obviously. The more you're trying to be good, you'll find all your friends are criticizing and the relatives are joking, making fun out of you, because you are trying to tell the truth, because you are trying to help others, because you are trying to be good. This is very peculiar. But more they do, more you should say to yourself, oh, I am on the right track and I must follow. And after a few days, all they will go away and they will come and they will say, please bless us. This is the proof of divinity. The ones you try to do good, in the beginning there will be oppositions. Then they will be simply avoid you. Oh, let him go, there's a crazy fellow, let him do. Then finally, in the third step, it will be acceptance. They will come and accept you as someone who is holy. So this we have seen in our lives, we see every time. And that is the proof of the power of holiness. So don't bother about that. You have to tell your mind, okay, you like to take rest now today, tomorrow I will do it. And make a routine and try to follow strictly by that routine. Thank you friends. Let us chant this mantra and conclude. Niranjanam nityam anantarupam bhaktanukampa dhrita vigraham vai Ishavataram parameshamidyam tam Ramakrishnam Shirasa namamaha. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Tat Sat. Sri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu.